Yeah, I know this is like the third video we've made on this trade, but, just from the recent performances of all the assets involved. Not one, not two, but all the assets. Aside from, of course, the draft picks. Those guys aren't doing anything right now because at the moment they're just hypotheticals. They don't even exist in the plane that is our reality of hockey. But, little clever quips aside, today we're talking about the Anthony Mantha trade once again. Not because I want to ridicule the Washington Capitals like I kind of was doing in the previous few videos, but because I wanted to just go over in a little bit more detail a lot more of the positive side of things. Because when it comes to this Anthony Mantha, Jakub Vrana trade between the Washington Capitals and the Detroit Red Wings that took place at the NHL Trade Deadline, it was a very beefy haul for Detroit. And we've said that a ton. Everything on paper in a vacuum sees a very good Detroit Red Wings victory because you had a guy in Mantha who produced similarly to a guy like Jakub Vrana, and you're trading away Mantha for Vrana, Richard Panik, and 2 draft picks. That in itself is seen as a positive for the Red Wings in a vacuum. But this trade honestly feels like a pretty big win-win now, just from taking a look at how things have evolved for the Washington Capitals and just how happy they are with this return that they have gotten. Now, that's not to say that the magnitude of winning for the Capitals and the Red Wings are equal here. I do think the Detroit Red Wings are winning a lot more from this trade than the Capitals have won, but that does not mean that the Capitals are losers in this trade by any means, because the way things align, it honestly does feel like a win for them as well, just in a different way. So I wanted to talk about that kind of stuff in this video here today, but before we get underway, thank you to those in the last Red Wings video who commented Conn Smythe. If you want a chance to be featured in the next Red Wings video, then hey, stick around to the end of this one for the comment section keyword. So the reason I wanted to talk about Anthony Mantha and Jakub Vrana is partly because I didn't cover anything on the game for the Red Wings recently. The Dylan Larkin taken out by Jamie Benn game and will no longer play for the rest of the season game. Wait, no, that's not why we're talking about that game. We're talking about that game against the Dallas Stars because it was a 7-3 Detroit Red Wings victory. And what we saw was a very high quantity of goals from the Red Wings from that one and only Jakub Vrana. Interesting to note that 2 of those 4 goals were assisted by Filip Zadina of all people. So Zadina's going out there, he's doing his thing. Obviously, you love to see Zadina getting on the board as well, showing off how he can also be a very capable playmaking forward, not just the goal scorer that he was touted to be. Because 2 primary assists with the fellow Czech guy on the team certainly is a good thing in my opinion. But hey, you know who else scored in the game? It wasn't just Jakub Vrana, it was also Richard Panik, the other guy that the Red Wings acquired in that trade with the Capitals. And we'll get into a little bit more how exactly this acquisition makes sense for Washington and why it correlates with the draft picks as well. But hey, 5 goals from 1 trade in a game against Dallas. Obviously, it's just 1 game. 1 game is not the be-all and end-all, but hey, 1 game can be all it takes to get everybody on board and just kind of cheering along as to whatever happens next. It's not like Red Wings fans are going out there expecting the playoffs, but I think fun hockey at the very least is not a bad expectation to have. And yeah, we've spoken a ton about the Jakub Vrana thing, how the guy was used in a limited role in Washington, now he is here in Detroit, willing to prosper, and he's doing a heck of a good job doing it. 4 games played, 6 points, 5 goals, 1 assist, not bad in the slightest, I would think. Adding on, making his total point production on the year 31 points in 43 games played, which isn't bad, actually. But the return that the Capitals got in Anthony Mantha has meshed very, very well with the team that they're trying to build. Right now, Anthony Mantha, in the 5 games played he has with Washington, has 4 goals and 1 assist for 5 total points in those 5 games. He had himself a 4-game goal streak to kick off his tenure with the Caps, but that ended the previous night when, with the Islanders, the Capitals did not score any goals in regulation or in overtime. They won 1-0 in a shootout, but as you know, in hockey, 1-0 shootout wins don't actually award anybody on any roster a goal because it's not really technically a goal, it's just a shootout marker. So nobody scored in that game, so it's not like Anthony Mantha's a bum for missing out on 1 game's worth of a goal. But 4 goals, 5 games played, 1 assist for 5 total points, Certainly not bad either. Here's some quotes from Washington Capitals GM Brian McClellan talking about the acquisition of Anthony Mantha and how exactly he has meshed with their squad. This is coming from an article on Sportsnet written by Mike Johnston, so I will leave a link in the description to that. We weren't sure he was available or not available, but we identified him as a great fit for our team. We thought he could come in and fit well with some of our skilled guys and make a major contribution, and so far, it's worked out well. He fits very well with Nick Backstrom and TJ Oshie. They seem to have a lot of elements that complement each other, and he provides a lot to that line. I think skill and size is how you win, especially in the playoffs. I grew up watching the Atlanta Flames and played a little bit in Calgary. They were big, skilled teams, and I think that's the path to a championship. And just reading the quotes here and seeing the extremely positive reception for Anthony Mantha amongst the Capitals fan base, it's really starting to open my eyes that this really is, at its core, a win-win. Because both fan bases are getting so much value in terms of what those teams need at this current time frame. The Red Wings are getting a nice replacement goal-scoring forward in Jakub Vrana who can replace the production of a Mantha, and they're also getting a boatload of extra assets. Panik is not a bad ad. You have yourselves the draft picks, the first and the second, of course, but for the Capitals, it's a lot more than just giving up a whole bunch of future for a guy in Anthony Mantha. As we noted before, the cost certainty is something the Capitals really valued. The fact that Mantha is signed for the next few years at a contract that they already know the price at. That's valuable because Vrana, the other asset, he's an RFA. Furthermore, Richard Panik was a big cap hit that the Washington Capitals were willing to part ways with. And as a result, when you have a trade like Mantha in exchange for Vrana, Panik, a first and a second, Pierre LeBrun kind of laid it out pretty nicely here. You're essentially trading the Red Wings Richard Panik, who is an asset that you don't want because you want extra money freed up, and in order to do that, you're giving the Red Wings a second to activate that trade, and you're trading away Vrana, and you're getting Mantha in return. But you're like, hey, we think this Mantha guy could be a lot more valuable, plus he's already got that cost certainty. Here's a first that will make you accept that trade. Or you could say it's the other way around. You could say, oh, here's Vrana and a second for Mantha. Here's Panik and a first in order for you to take Panik. But the fact is, Anthony Mantha is a guy who, vibing with Backstrom and Oshie, is in a position where he does not need to be the guy, the big fish, the number one player in Washington. That's what he was supposed to be here in Detroit, especially last year and the year before that, where Mantha was out there producing just under point-per-game seasons. We expected him to be the guy here, but as we saw later on after he got the contract, Mantha just wasn't really super comfortable being that guy that people wanted to be as a number one point producer. However, you put Mantha in a spot where he doesn't have that pressure. He's just a guy in the middle of the lineup playing with some other really talented players, and he's not even the most talented player on his team. All of a sudden, the weights are lifted off his shoulders. He can just go out there, he can just fly, and he can just do what it is that he does best. Come in with speed, charge forward, and score some pretty nice goals. It's kind of funny because the Anthony Mantha that exists in Washington, I don't know if this kind of profile would ever have been sustainable long-term in Detroit, just considering the circumstances of expectation, deployment, and obviously, line mates. Because, I mean, come on. Nick Backstrom and TJ Oshie are probably the best line mates that Mantha has played with, like, in his career. If there was anybody he played with earlier on when he was a rookie, I don't know, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but no disrespect to Dylan Larkin or Tyler Bertuzzi, but playing with Backstrom and Oshie probably is a little bit better, I would say that. So, all in all, the way things fall down, the way the dominoes tip down the scales, we have ourselves a trade where the Red Wings fan base is clamoring because they have a nice Czech sniper to go alongside of their other Czech sniper. They've shown off some pretty good work together so far, and the rest of the assets have some very good benefit to the team too. Panik is a body on the team, and you have the draft picks. And in return, the Capitals are getting a guy who has been unleashed from his shell and who is going out there playing the best version of hockey that he has to offer with some of the best line mates he has ever had. He's cost certainty protected, and you guys free up some extra cap space to re-sign Alexander Ovechkin by getting rid of that Panik contract as well. So, all in all, pretty good win-win, I think. Talk to me in the comments what you thought about this video here. I know I'm kind of milking the topic because it is something that's pretty big, and I know a lot of people were talking about this early on, but hey, it hasn't really been established on this channel yet just how good of a trade this is for Washington. Again, in a vacuum, Detroit wins because the value of the assets involved heavily favors Detroit, but the context for these teams really does put a spotlight as to why the Capitals made this move and why it's a good one for them. So if you made it to the end of this video, tell me in the comments, Batman. And the reason I say Batman is because he is the main guy of DC Comics, and DC is reminding me of Washington, D.C., and of course Washington, D.C., the Washington Capitals. Yeah, you get the connection there. Batman is the keyword for the next Red Wings video. Talk to me in the comments also what you thought about the topic at hand. I hope you enjoyed this Trolls 99. And bye.